I'm hopeful, regardless of the outcome. Boost the positive energy without one. Sorry about the jab, I'm on a holy field. I'm bearing fruit, but demons try to eat them like Yoshi meals. I pissed them off the Batman like Falcone deals. Jungle full of predators, I know how Mowgli feels. So I got the fire, refuse to live in fear. I can spot suppliers, eating fresh shrubs. Call me private label, I be leaving.
Oh yeah, welcome to episode 154 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is My Passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. How you doing, honey?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long day, but as always, this episode brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! Heaven's Harvest, y'all, 10% off with promo code PERMA, P-E-R-M-A. And folks, look around you. Just in time for the holidays, these ho-ho-hos in Washington are acting like complete sold-out puppets, which we all know they are. But I digress. I'm not going to get sideways on anything right now. All right. If you'd like to support us in terms of Bitcoin or anything like that, there's an app out there. It's called the Fountain app. And they have a derivation of Bitcoin called they're called SATs, SATs. So if you'd like to support us in that way, drop some SATs on some PIMPs over there on the Fountain app. You can also listen to all your podcasts over there. Triple up the speed if you like. But it is a joy to be here tonight. All right, so not going to fool around, going to get right into it. And I want to thank everybody in the chat right now. Let's see if I can see some of the names here. Remember, as always, hit the thumbs up there, y'all. Tells everybody to go ahead and start suppressing us like they always do. So thanks, Tommy, Hummingbird Heights Farm, Sandra, Christopher, Meet the Volkers. It's hard for me to see what that is.
Yeah, that's right.
Anna and a bear. We got a bear in the house. Frank Family Homestead. All right, y'all. Holla if you hear me. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up as always. So, start right in with the farm news. Look, this is part of, we've talked about it before in terms of the mundane life that homesteading is. You know, when people see it on YouTube, they tend to think, oh, man, this is really idyllic. This is that. But what's one of the biggest things you think is missing, honey, when it comes to this life?
The repetitive tasks that are not so glamorous for Instagram.
Yeah, and that's really the lion's share of it. It really is, y'all. And we typically just go out there. I don't know how other homesteaders typically do it. A lot of them do a day log vlog. I can't do that. We just basically film the tasks we just happen to be doing that day. Or sometimes, you know, it could be anything, but it's not really contrived or anything like that. But you might be misled if you're thinking about getting in this space into thinking. And I know I've said this over a couple of weeks. There's a reason why I'm saying it. We're coming into the new year, and a lot of people are going to say, okay, new year starts. I'm going to be a homesteader. I'm going to be I don't end anything in ER. So I'm going to get into preparedness. Yeah, that's the way to get around it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then you might not be getting the entire story there. So be sure that, like I said, every single day where we live and what we do, every single day those animals move. Rain, sleet, or snow. I mean, there's a rare occasion maybe the chickens don't get moved, but everything typically moves every single day. Or if it's this time of year, it might be every 3 days.
For the sheep.
Yeah. So it all depends on what time of year it is. You know, when things are growing fast, you move them fast. When they grow slow, you move them slow. And then there's other things we're doing where we're turning parts of this land into pasture. And that's a lot of mundane work too. I mean, it's out there chopping down trees. It's running that weed eater and then doing extract. I mean, when I say extract, I'm basically taking compost, making compost extract out of it. And I'm spraying it out there whenever it's not freezing. So that's pretty important stuff too. So what else are we doing? Yeah. Look, I'm just going to keep it real, y'all. If it were for her, every critter this side of the Mississippi would be up in here trying to find the cat last night. Can't find the cat. Where was it?
The cat was sleeping in between your two pillows.
I got 2 pillows on the bed, and that cat's in between both of them. Can't find this cat nowhere.
She never sleeps on your side of the bed. She always sleeps on my side
Cat
of the
shouldn't
bed.
even be on the bed in the first place. She's out there killing mice and rats and stuff, and then she wants to get in here and get all cuddly with her, and then who knows what kind of germs. Man, I probably got worms and everything else. I got to do another detox.
Yeah, you can take some black walnut hull tincture. You'll be good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Look, Dr. Doolittle probably could have been a female, because I'm telling you what, I'm like, where is this cat? And she has the nerve to tell me, oh, she'll turn up. I'm like, no, we're going to bed, and that cat ain't about to walk across my head, because I know it's in this room somewhere.
No, I thought the cat ran outside when you went out to get wood, but so I thought she was outside.
Folks, there's something you may not know about me. I'm not a big pet fan. Not in any form. I'm not a big fan of pets unless they sleep outside. I don't like dogs inside. I don't like cats inside, because you know what's going to happen sooner or later. They're going to get sick. And
you never have to clean it up.
I don't care. It's the fact that they say a dog will never poop in his crate, but you got no problem pooping in mine. So, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I don't like animals in my house. I love them outside. And she's got to bring them in here. And I'm like, and then she does this other little thing too. Yeah, let's go. It's called, she's like a Fabian socialist when it comes to, yes, you are. You're a Fabian socialist when it comes to this gradualism that you do with these animals. Oh, it's only going to be, so she'll agree to a certain list of parameters that
the parameters get changed because conditions get changed.
Negative. That was supposed to be an outside cat. Now it's sleeping on my doggone pillow.
Then what happened? What happened with the cat? We couldn't get her fixed for a while, and the vet said, don't let her outside.
That cat was a stray, killing everything, eating, feeding itself. So yeah, and y'all, you wouldn't believe some of the rats this cat will. She'll sit there, chop their heads off, throw them right on the front porch, waiting to drag them in the house. I mean, this cat is a stone cold. She's a killer. I mean, in the words of Drill Sergeant Hartman, she's a killer. I mean, the cat will get it done, but she needs to be getting it done outside. And she has the nerve to tell me, just we'll find her after a while. Like, no, I'm not waiting until I go to sleep and then go find this cat. Yeah, so we got cats to do whatever they want. We got a dog that does whatever she wants. And every time I turn around, it's some other critter she's trying to get all snuggly with.
No, there's no other critters.
Michelle, we had an entire ecosystem in our room when that baby sheep was around. We got a sheep in a box, a cat that is meowing all night, and a dog, 2 dogs. And I'm like,
none of which I brought to the house.
Don't even try it.
I'll remind you of that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. So that's some of the other drama going on around here in terms of cats under my pillows, which better not be happening anymore, or I'm going to try out the aerodynamics on that cat. How about that?
No.
All right. So some other farm news, y'all. I know you're not going to be able to see this if you're doing the audio version, but right here, I got this little necklace. Here, I'm going to get a little close to the camera. Maybe you can see it. It might be, see that bling, bling, bling? You got yours on too, right, honey?
Yep.
It's called Shungite, y'all. So I did a video. Let's see. We talked about it in a live a little while back. And then I did a video on Patreon where I took some of this type 2. There's type 1 and type 2 Shungite. Okay. So you're probably wondering, what is Shungite? And it's not something you do in the bathroom. Anyway, it's a stone. It's a rock. Basically, I'll give you the condensed version. Basically comes out of Russia. I've tested everything you can imagine when it comes to mitigation of RF frequencies off of your phone, your Wi-Fi, whatever. People make all these claims about these little patches you put on your phone, and it works. Look, y'all, I don't know how some of these people go to bed at night, because I've tested them, and every last one of them, not one of them worked. Then I started hearing about this Shungite. I go look it up, and I'm like, okay, man, how do you know what's real? Then I'll check out this place called Verified Shungite. Guy has a YouTube channel, and I'm like, okay, he seems legit, but it wouldn't be the first time, you got taken. So I'm like, all right, let me order 2 of these things, and let me test them. So I took them out there. That background RF radiation around here, if you don't have the Wi-Fi, if you don't have your phone, is around 6, which is extremely safe because anything between, depending on whom you ask, anything between 60 to 100 millivolts per meter is considered unsafe. And like I said, it all depends on who you're asking. And if you ask some of the other people in the powers that shouldn't be in those higher echelons, they're going to tell you, oh, you can have thousands and thousands. Yeah, but not sustained. But I digress. So anyway, I've tried everything you can imagine to see about mitigation of RF outside of putting it on airplane mode, which, by the way, does not work 100% of the time. You have to turn it off. And even then, I think there's some pulsing going on. I haven't tested that part, but I know for sure that it does it on airplane mode. So anyway, I turn this phone on. Tell me if I get this right. But I turn the phone on, and as usual, it's pegging that RF meter off the charts. And then, you know, it kind of gets in where it settles down. I've dropped this shungite, this type 2 shungite, which, by the way, is less. The one you saw around my necklace is it's very, very brittle. It's like almost like glass, but it's very brittle. The type 2 is less brittle. And I'm thinking, okay, did I just get scammed again? I dropped that thing on that phone, y'all, and the RF frequency, not only, I didn't show this in the Patreon video, but if had I stuck around a little bit longer, it would have shown that not only did it beat it back to 6, it actually drops it below the background radiation, RF frequency radiation.
Right.
I mean, and then there's like this field that it has around it. So you can literally take this thing, stick it on the other side of your phone and the meter, and it's still working. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and give this stuff a shot. It works so well. Now, you should always, just as a good habit, I mean, yeah, people can still track you in the whole 9 yards unless you put your phone in a Faraday bag. And then, you know, a good Faraday bag, one that actually works, not the one I got from InfoWars. It turned out to be
just a bag.
Phone calls right through that thing. I mean, it didn't even work. Not even, I mean, a little bit. Anyway, the cool thing about that is that you can still have all the benefits of your phone, near as I could tell, without the RF frequency. Are there other things going on? I don't know, but I do know that that thing works. I have no affiliation with these people, but it is actually a joy when I reach out to somebody and I get a product that makes high claims, and then it comes through even better than the claims that were made. So, yeah, I can't give you, I don't have any deal with these people. I don't have any, I'm just letting you know what I found out. So it works so well. The guy that does all the testing, he's like, well, if you can get it on your skin, well, they make bracelets. And folks, if you know anything about me, I don't like anything touching my skin, but I'm going to suck it up and I'm gonna get used to wearing this necklace because,
I have it. The necklace doesn't bother me. It, like, you just put it in your shirt and.
You want to show them yours?
Well, it looks just like yours.
No, yours is round. Mine's more like a deadly instrument if you have to. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it looks like we're in a QVC commercial right now. But anyway, yeah. So they got bracelets. They got this other stuff. I don't get anything from these people. They didn't ask me to do it. I'm doing it because for the first time regarding this RF frequency stuff, I finally got something that actually works. Now, are there other things out there? Possibly, but I don't know about them. And it's really awesome that this stuff actually works. So there you have it on as far as the RF frequencies. Now, I'm going to be doing hopefully some videos in the future on how to mitigate those smart meters on your house where they still function. Remember, those things got to be kind of powerful to be able to kick that signal back to wherever you live. So, and then they pulse usually at night. So I'm working on testing and, you know, cheap DIY ways as best as I can possibly manage to mitigate a lot of that harmful radiation from those RF meters or from those smart meters on your house. So I'm working on that. But like I said, cell phone seems to be a problem solved. I still put this thing in airplane mode. If I'm going outside, I still do it anyway. It's a good habit to get into anyway. But like I said, if you don't want to be tracked, if you don't want the NSA or whoever else knowing your whereabouts at all times, yeah, you're going to need a Faraday bag. So there you have it. All right, so we'll cover some other farm news, and some of it involves a homestead honey here. You got a new workout regimen. Why don't you tell people what that involves?
Training for a ruck march. So there's, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but there's a Memorial Baton Death March that takes place every spring in New Mexico. So I will be doing the virtual event this year, not the in-person event, but it's a marathon distance ruck march, which is 26.2 miles with a 35-pound ruck.
How much is in yours?
I weighed it and it was like a little over 30. It's somewhere between 35 and 40. So I'm going to have to actually pack it and do it, like make sure the weight is correct. But
Well, if you can do it in these mountains, you can do it anywhere, because she's walking up and down the mountains and, doing all that kind of stuff. But, there's, even in the Army, I hated running. And then I remember there was this sergeant. His name was Sergeant Brian. I remember I was a private at the time, and he was like, and he couldn't stand running either. I mean, the guy was a hard charger all the way around. And he's like, when's the last time you ever heard of running in the combat? And then I was like, okay, I hated running before. Now I really hate it. And it was really, this guy could ruck all day long, all night and all day. So think about it, y'all. In these places, I know it's, it's good to have some cardiovascular fitness. I mean, that's a must. But think about it. If you ever get to the point where you're going to diddy mal, you might want to consider some of those modalities of getting out of there, depending on what the nature of whatever these days the manufactured crisis may be. You may be on foot, and you may be driving out of there on BMWs, and I mean boots made for walking. So if that's the case, you might maybe taking up rucking as a little bit of it could be a hobby, could be a workout. Could be, competing in the the Death March ruck. For some reason, I can't say any of that.
It's a long title.
Yeah, but if you're going to do any of that, it just occurred to me that, that might be a pretty good way. If you're going to be doing some walking around anyway, you do a lot of walking on a farm, clearly. Well, unless you got those machines and maybe you can drive everywhere. But yeah, so you get a little workout that way. You're carrying heavy buckets a lot of times. That could be happening too. We don't have any special vehicles or nothing like that. Usually it's BMWs for us, but consider maybe using some of these rucks to train, because look, I mean, Catherine Herridge the other day on CBS, she used to be a reporter for Fox News, and she just flat out said the other day, and this ain't long ago, that, yeah, I'm expecting some great black swan calamity to happen in 2024. Look, they're openly telling you what they intend to do. So you might want to think about plan B all the way down to Z. And one of those plans might consider walking out of where you are. So if you do, you might want to think about, okay, in the Army, we used to always say pack light, freeze at night. And that's exactly what it was, man, because you didn't want to lug more than you had to. You're already carrying, a ton of weight anyway. So think about, if you had to bug out of there, what are the things you're going to take? Start training with those things right now. Maybe pack it up with a bunch of dehydrated food or some freeze-dried food.
Right.
Because I don't know how far anybody out there plans to walk on with canned green beans, but you ain't going to get that far, nephew, before you're dropping those things, or they're going to get busted. So think about it all the time. And just like FedUp says, yeah, they're dropping clues all the time. They do. They really do. So just another little side note I want to announce here, y'all. I had the Texas boys on. That was a joy for Christmas. And, man, we talked about a lot of stuff, and as predicted, we got, they demonetized. I'm seriously thinking about it. I told you before we were going to do it, and I think I might actually take the plunge. So this might very well be our last live YouTube. We may go ahead, if there's a way to do it, we'll try to do it over on Rumble and see if we can do it there. We'll try to announce it in some way that possible, but it's becoming so onerous that you can't even, it's getting to the point in this platform where you can't have a casual conversation. So I'm still thinking, use YouTube as an educational modality. That's what we do. We're a how-to channel, and leave the podcast, which is what it was intent from the beginning.
Yeah. So you guys could talk freely.
Right. And then, I was reluctant about doing a YouTube channel with it. I wanted to keep it audio only. And there's a whole big reason for that for me, because I've always been a fan of radio, old time radio. When we first got married, what did I listen to?
Yeah.
We didn't have a TV. We listened to Focus on the Family, where we lived in Colorado Springs.
Adventures in Odyssey was a kid show that like William would listen to.
That I listened to. We all listened to. I mean, back in those days, you didn't have smartphones or anything like that. So you caught it on the radio, and then they had this one radio station where you could listen to old time like the Lone Ranger and stuff like that. And it was literally theater for the mind. So I had a little bit of a reluctance in doing a live version of this, even though I'm completely okay with it. It was just, I think it takes away some of the mystique of radio and some of the things I would like to do that maybe you can't do, where it just seems like it requires more imagination to weave a tapestry with your mind in just an audio format, And that we may be getting back to that, but if we're going to stay doing it live, it's probably going to have to be on Rumble, because we could do as milquetoast a show as we want, and then bam, just like that, demonetized. And they don't even tell you why. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, I kind of figured having the Texas boys on, I kind of knew how that one was going to go. And
yeah, but that one was obvious, like you expected it. But there's like, we haven't even, other than my slip ups most of the time, we haven't had a topic where it's something that should be demonetized.
At the end of the day, I mean, look, the First Amendment, and I know it doesn't apply in a place, in a private business like this, like YouTube or whatever, but think about it, y'all. The most important thing that the Founding Fathers put in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, and the First Amendment, from the top of my head: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, the right to assemble peaceably and petition a government. There's 5 things in there. Most people don't know that. They think, oh, it's freedom of speech. No, it's all those things, all under that First Amendment. That was the most important thing they thought to put down. And now it's become, I've actually had this comment, and it's rather irritating to me, is like, I won't mention any names or anything, but it's like, hey, man, you're worried about getting demonetized. Why don't you watch what you say? And I'm like, dude, this is supposed to be
That's
a
what
free
they want
speech
you
commons.
to do.
This is supposed to be a free speech commons, just like all the other social media places are. It's supposed to be a free speech commons, and apparently it isn't. So, I think we're going to probably either take this over to Rumble, or unless I know it's really going to be milquetoast, or when it's a show like we had yesterday with Nathan Reynolds, it's going to get dark. It's going to get crazy. And I advise everybody to go out there and check it out. It's not fun stuff to hear during the holidays or anything like that, but it's things that everybody needs to hear, especially when you have some of these satanic high days that roll around. So you want to hear from an expert about why you need to be looking after your kids and the threats that are lurking in just about every single place. You cannot put your guard down at all as a parent or grandparent these days. I really don't think you can. I don't think you have the benefit of being able to slip. You just don't have that anymore. All right, y'all. Usually we go into the homesteading pastor, but I kind of laid off of Pastor Lon about, look, he's still affiliated with the show. He's still my pastor and a friend. I just didn't want to hit him up because I know for a pastor, December's got to be the busiest time of year. So I wanted to leave him alone and kind of let him get whatever. I mean, he is the busiest guy on the planet. He and Miss Robbie. I ain't never seen nothing like it. All they do for others. And he still manages to find time to put out a message out here in the podcast. I just wanted to give him a break until the end of the year. So, yeah, that's Pastor Lon's still around. He'll just be around. We'll give him a little break, let him get caught up, let him get some wind. Remember, y'all, nobody ever thinks, for the most part, most of us in the United States of Amnesia never think about a pastor or a lawyer until trouble comes along. Sadly, nobody ever thinks about you until tragedy strikes for those two professions a lot of times. All right, y'all, before we get into the good news, want to remind you of Redemption Shield. From now until the end of the year, you're going to get an additional 10% off to the 20 they currently got going at Redemption Shield. We got a link down below should you require anything. And like I said, folks, like I was mentioning with that Shungite, I reached out to them and I said, hey, would you mind me testing your stuff? They had no problem at all with it. In fact, everybody else either didn't answer the email or wouldn't let me do it or wasn't okay with me doing it. I guess I just could have bought the stuff. But it tells you an awful lot about them when they're saying, yeah, test it. And if it ain't right, let me know and I'll set things right. So, yeah, Redemption Shield. That's why I asked them to get on board. Plus, we sleep on their sheet every night. How's your sleep in?
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really awesome. So everything they have is tested out. And it does exactly what it's supposed to. So, yeah, I'm glad to put my name on it. Anyway, 10% in addition to the 20 until the end of this year. And promo code is PERMA, PERMA. Give them your support if you should need anything. And they got everything. If it's too cold for you, they got grounding mats, grounding sheets, Faraday bags that actually work. Unlike that stuff at InfoWars that actually work. I know because I tested them. So, yeah, go check them out. All right, so we're going to get into the good news section. Anybody that's new here, we once had a bad news, good news. Done away with bad news because you get plenty of that already, and you get it all from the prostitutes. So I got basically 3 good news articles here or some information you might want to know about. First one is the benefits of rucking. So there's 12 of them here. We'll see how many I can get through. Well, when you're burning 3 times the calories as walking and only a bit less than running, I don't know that I buy that. I think you burn a lot more rucking depending on where you get your heart rate. If you can get it just to the edge where you're still able to have a conversation, I think you're going to get way more out of rucking than you ever do running, plus a lot less impact on old timers like me. So strengthening your back and shoulders, improving your posture. Yeah, that's good. Strengthening your bones. I think that goes without saying. You're carrying weight. That's one of the things I've heard a lot of biohackers talk about lately. That one thing, there was a documentary with Chris, the guy that plays Thor.
Oh, Hemsworth? I don't know how you say his last name.
Hemsworth. And one of the sections in this documentary that he did about biohacking was these Mexican ladies who run everywhere. And part of it is the seniors in the tribe. And that's one thing, that's part of why the ruck movement started coming back around, is that they spend a fair amount of their day not only moving around, but carrying weight. So that was the idea of also rucking too. So obviously less impact than running, training for anything. Man, they're actually covering some of the stuff I've been talking about here. You can build a really hardcore workout, balancing body composition, training upper body and legs at the same time. You know what I'm talking about. How many of those guys you know that go to the gym and they work the disco muscles, from the waist up? They're in there, but you never see them squat. They all got knee problems, so they never squat. Well, you can kind of get some of that leg workout in for all you guys with the disco muscles out there, and maybe you can walk around with a ruck, get some of that squared away. And, yeah. So for women, obviously, there's for women that are so inclined, it's going to help shape your derriere. Is that even a word?
I don't know.
The abadabbas and the battissimo.
I think it might date you.
Yeah. All right. So there's a bunch more stuff here, but I'm going to spend more time on it. Obviously, there's a lot of good stuff there. Since the Homestead Honey is out there rucking like crazy, I figured I want to pull up an article like that. All right. So what are the 9 benefits of sunlight in the morning? Now, obviously, if the sun's shining all day, yeah. But I didn't really go into any great detail. I just knew that it was really good for you. And because we're farmers, we're out there at the crack of dawn. Or when that sun's coming over the mountain. Anyway, there's a bunch of benefits there. So the morning light, you get all of it. I mean, you get all the benefits without the problems. Okay. So, but here's another one I didn't really think about is it's setting the daytime improves your nighttime sleep. Also, if you can, you should try to look at the sunset as well. Vitamin D production, that goes without saying. Physical activity and cortisol. It's not just the morning light, but it also gets that cortisol, in regulation. Regulation of your circadian rhythm. There was a guy on with Dan Bongino in one of his recent podcasts. It was another biohacker, and he was talking about one of the biggest ways in which he's able to overcome jet lag was immediately grounding wherever country you go to. Immediately grounding and getting that morning light no matter what. And it's like his circadian rhythm sets before anybody else's. And that's one of the tricks that he did to do it. So serotonin boost, melatonin regulation. So if you can get out there, instead of just standing around a coffee pot, get outside. And I told you how you can overlap some of this stuff. And a lot of people wrote in talking about how they do it too. You can go outside. I delay the coffee by 2 hours. Believe me, it does make a big difference. But go outside and go out there in your bare feet if you can. Suck it up for about 15 minutes and do some deep breathing at the same time. You can knock out 3 things all at the same time, really. Better sleep patterns. So I don't know if it's, I guess I can say it is, I'm going to say my sleep, I am religious about turning off all the phones, getting them out of there, turning off the Wi-Fi, grounding the bed, which I think is really the biggest thing in helping sleep regulation. but I don't know that I saw a whole lot of improvement on the basis of just getting the sunlight. But I did notice a big difference when I still have trouble going to sleep, and that's partially my fault. But when I am asleep, I stay asleep until I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go pee because I ate a bunch of sugar because she made it.
Done. No more.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yep. All the sugar's gone around here. Well, mostly. All the sugar that isn't frozen in the form of those 5 pints of that ball of ice cream I got down there. So we got to hurry up and eat that before the New Year's because we're going to start doing some, or at least I'm going to start doing some pretty cool things on New Year's. So, okay. So speaking of the sugar and stuff, look, I know a lot of people are talking about sugar, but look, I'm going to just give you some of the highlights here, why you should get rid of it. It's going to make you mentally sharp. Okay. Does it happen to you too? Okay. Give her sugar. She's going to have an attitude.
Not like you.
Yeah.
I don't consume the quantities that you consume. I can eat a small portion and be just fine. you
Yeah, either I'm on it or I'm off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, right now she keeps making all this crazy stuff, pumpkin pies and cookies and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm over here eating it because I can't bear to waste food, but I ain't about to give some of these shortbread cookies to no chickens. Ain't gonna happen. So I'm trying to hurry up and eat them up. But anyway, yeah, mentally sharp. Yeah. Okay, risk of diabetes, obviously you'll lose weight, brighter and happier. Your skin will glow. You won't get sick as often. Now that's a fact. At least from my own personal standpoint. You'll age slower. Look, y'all, sugar wasn't even in the human, or especially in the Western diet, for most of our existence.
right.
So it's a relatively new thing. I mean, yeah, it's some sweet grasses and honey. Even Louis L'Amour wrote about this sort of thing, but sugar was a thing that really wasn't a thing for the longest time. Obviously, your teeth, sex life will get a boost. You'll sleep better. Okay, so all the wonderful benefits of staying away from sugar. Now, are you about to put the brakes on the sugar consumption?
Oh yes. Yep.
So is that like now or like New Year's kind of thing?
I've already started to put the brakes on it. Yeah.
All right. So when we get back, y'all, we're going to get into the main topic. Right now, we're going to go to my man, Eric.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip, design versus implementation priorities. In permaculture, we talk about the mainframe design priorities of water, access, and structures. It is important to note that these are design priorities, not necessarily implementation priorities. The purpose of creating a design for a property is to identify the optimum locations for water harvesting and storage. Based on these locations, the next priority is access, roads, and paths. Then structure placement is naturally based on the access. All of this is made much easier by having a high-resolution topographic map of the property. It becomes less critical on smaller properties with little elevation change, particularly urban and suburban lots, but the principles still apply. On larger properties, it's actually easier to design off a high-resolution map than being on site. You just can't get the same perspective or information. I make a point of saying high-resolution maps because the free topographic maps available online are fine for identifying the general flow of a watershed, but are basically useless for designing an individual property. I've seen these maps have contour lines off by 90 degrees compared to a proper topographic map. So once you have a design, the order you install the earthworks is entirely dependent on your personal situation or your budget. Having the design and the optimum locations identified for the main frame ensures that if you do install a house site first, you don't put it in the best location of a dam on your property. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider, and if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts or remote permaculture consultation and design, head over to ericsider.com.
That's my dog right there, y'all. Eric, I mean, the shirt I'm wearing, a lot of the shirts she wears, I mean, hey, y'all, if nothing else, like I said, it's fantastic information, but go ahead and get yourself some shirts over at his YouTube channel or at his website. I'm sure he's got a link over there as well. Wicked smart, great ideas. And, he's got some ideas, man, I'm telling you, that will absolutely blow your mind. Can't really talk about them right now, but man, his brain goes at 100 miles an hour and it eats, sleeps, breathes, drinks, everything permaculture. So, man, it's just real awesome and a blessing to have Eric as part of this show and a friend. All right, y'all. So before we get into the main topic, EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Do I even need to say another word? Now, you're out and about, things jump off. You're not looking to go to the club. You're looking to go to the house. And your number one threat out there, I would have said throughout all of human existence, would have been lightning. And it still is. I mean, who even knows what's true and what isn't right now? But your biggest threat is lightning. And if anything gets past that, there is no better surge protector out there than EMP Shield. If it gets downstream, blows up something, Kentucky Fries a toaster, guess what? They're going to cover you up that 25 G's. So make sure you go over to EMP Shield, promo code PERMA. We'll get you $50 off. All right, so we're going to get into the main topic, and thanks, everybody, if you're new coming in. Thanks, Fed Up, for putting that V4CR out there. Yeah, and we'll see how quickly we get demonetized again, because I don't know that we said anything so far. And, Michelle, we're going to try and not just to see if they just said, hey, they broadcast, go ahead and demonetize it anyway. Now, I ain't even worried about the demonetized part of it. It's just that it gets less seen. They're not letting anybody see it. So, which is kind of normal anyway for us. So, ought to be used to all that. All right. So the main topic today, y'all, wanted to get into is it the best time to plant? I mean, should you be planting right now? And for most people, now hear me out. For most people are going to be thinking, man, are you out of your mind? Why would we plant? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why you might want to plant. One of my heroes in this space, and I had the joy of meeting him not long ago, was Stefan Subkowiak. He turned me on to another guy called Professor Whitcomb out of Oklahoma State. Probably did more research on planting trees than probably anybody else. And his research is fabulous. Basically, in a nutshell, what he figured out is that, okay, first of all, when are most trees available for purchase on the market? You're going to say the spring. Yeah, that's when all the garden centers open up. Everything's hopping and popping. It's in the spring. Well, here's the problem with that. You put in a tree and it goes in the spring. All right. That's all well and good. Fine. Dandy. Wonderful. And then what's right after spring? Summer. Well, do you think that tree had adequate amount of time to put down roots before summer rolls along? Nope. So the blessing of the work of people like Dr. Whitcomb proved basically that when you plant a tree, a shrub, or anything like it in the fall, even in the winter, depending on where you are, basically when the trees all have their leaves, when all the deciduous trees have lost their leaves, that's basically your demarcation, at least for us, to start planting our trees, our shrubs, and a lot of other things, any of your woody species or anything like that. Michelle, could you even put in strawberries right now?
I'm not sure if you could do strawberries right now.
The point of it being with all of this is, like everything else you're told, the best time to plant a tree is not in the spring. Yeah, I've done it before. I've even planted trees in the summer. But the best time to plant them is in the fall. And what's going to happen? All the action is not above the surface, okay? It's all happening below ground. So when that tree is dormant, it's not really dormant. It's really that's when it's doing all the root growth. That's when it's making its way through that soil. So you're giving that tree the best opportunity, especially if it's bare root, the best opportunity in the world. If you can take that tree, sometimes it's going to be in a pot. We just put some in today. And you're going to let that thing do all of its work. Guess what else it's going to do? It's going to make it way more drought tolerant when summer does roll around. If you do it right and you mulch right, you'd be shocked at how little you got to care for that tree in terms of watering if you can plant it in the fall. Plus, you're going to have the benefit of the winter snows. When that happens, the snow gets on top of your mulch ring. Believe it or not, that is one of the Dr. Elaine Ingham basically figured out, her team figured out that the places where things break down the most are not rainforests. Believe it or not, it's old growth forests with snowpack on it. So if you do get snow and you have the benefit of having that snow on top of your mulch ring, it's helping, believe it or not, that microbial life, it is going at 100 miles an hour. Well, that microbial life is in a symbiotic relationship with your tree, with your shrub, anything that you're putting in right now. So the beauty is this commensal relationship that's going on between the microorganisms and your tree can be balling right through the fall and winter. So here's what I'm trying to get at. Don't wait if you know you're going to put this stuff in and you're ready, look, don't push it if you're just finding this information out. If you got to wait till spring, then so be it. But it's going to require more work through the summer, depending on where you live. I know in Texas, whenever we would plant trees, the ideal time, believe it or not, was in January, sometimes even February. I mean, there were times the trees didn't even lose their leaves until January.
Right.
So, I mean, you just got to play it by ear. And if you did do it a little bit early, it's not the end of the world. You just have to look after the tree until the leaves come off. And then even if you're in some sort of a drought, you may have to water from time to time. But by and large, a lot of your care, if you put that thing in the spring, you're going to have to baby it all through the summer. And then it's not going to be until the next fall that it actually really starts putting down roots. Here's another good reason. If you go take that bare root or whatever the case may be, you stick it in the ground, it's young. Okay, if you're in a place where you're going to get high winds, places like Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, South Dakota, you name it, there's a lot of places like that where you get a lot of winds. And those trees are going to be better able to withstand those winds if you can plant them when they're little. Don't be fooled by this big old tree in a pot or whatever. That little tree is going to be far more adapted if you can put it in. I don't go for the bigger trees. I go for the small ones. Another little trick I learned from Stefan. Because you get all those micro root hairs. That tree is going to be way more stable in high wind than it ever is going to be if you buy that long, big tree in a pot because you think it's going to produce quicker. It ain't. It ain't. 9 times out of 10, it's root bound to that pot, and it ain't going to work out. So if you can, go find some bare roots. Michelle, do you have any ideas where people might find some of those?
We planted sea buckthorn, and we also ordered some honeyberry, and they came in a pot though, so they weren't bare roots, but they at least shipped them in like late December, so that's good. But it was at One Green World.
Well, we've also gone through Etsy as well too for some nitrogen fixers.
Yeah, you can get stuff. I'm not sure how much there is this time of year. But you could try. Yeah, you could try it.
I've gotten things out of Etsy at some weird times of year, particularly nitrogen fixers. And yeah, sometimes you gotta, it may be a crapshoot, but a lot of times you can get them for real inexpensive, especially nitrogen fixers. You can get them for less money, and you can actually find them more available than you can in a lot of other places. So, yeah, consider some of those places, but also your shrubs. It's not just your trees. Everything I just said applies to your shrubs as well. Michelle just said we put in some sea buckthorn, sea berry. There's a bunch of different names for it. It's a nitrogen fixer, and I've also covered this in the video we shot for it, that for all of you people out there that are looking to put in clandestine food forests, well, that might be a species you want to consider. Even some autumn olive and stuff like that, where you put on the perimeter of your property so people don't necessarily even know that you got an orchard back there, but it's absolutely edible, and it's also a nitrogen fixer.
Right.
So there's so many different, what other benefits? It's high in vitamin C, right?
It's high in vitamin C. There's also supposed to be an oil of some sort. The oil is in the seed of the fruit and possibly in the bark or the wood. But I don't know how you would extract it. The fruit, obviously, that's pretty easy, but I'm not sure how you would extract it out of the wood. But it's also high in omega fatty acids, vitamin A, C, and E, possibly. So it's really got a lot of nutritional value to it.
Which is another good reason why you want to consider growing some of your own medicine, because in the times we're getting into, I don't know how true some of this stuff is, but some folks are saying there's not a single Chinese ship in American ports right now. Is it true? I don't know. It could all be hyperbole. But look, it may not be true now, but it's probably going to be true. So you might want to be thinking about those plan Bs. This is why I want to talk about that right now. Number one, it's relevant. Also, not only is it relevant, look around you. Okay, if you're watching all the prostitutes at Fix News and MSNBC and all the rest of them, yeah, they're not going to tell you about some of this other stuff. You got to go, the news they give you for free is worth exactly what you didn't pay for it in most cases. So, yeah, certain sources are telling you some things. Nobody knows what to believe, but at the end of the day, like Jack Spirko always says, it's a way to live if times get tough or even if they don't. Plus, you got some seriously bioavailable vitamin C and a bunch of other nutrients that are right there in this stuff. It's also a good cover. It's a giant shrub. It'll grow like a tree. And you can put a bunch of them up there, different cultivars, because you did get several cultivars,
Yeah,
right?
it was like a pack that I ordered. So they give you a male because sea bear, it does need a male and some female. So you have to have both for it to be fertile. But yes, there was one male and then 4 different cultivars.
Do we have any trees out there that I identify as male or female, or how do they know anymore? I mean, I don't even know why I put that out there, because some lunatic around the Asheville part actually, didn't you also hear something similar to that?
I don't.
Where we're identifying trees as male and female. Oh my goodness, man. Okay, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
I just remember the vegan compost. There's people out there very interested in producing vegan compost.
Vegan compost. Yeah. You tell me how that happens. You know what a soil food web is? That means you got bacteria, fungi, nematodes, protozoa, all the way up to your earthworms. And guess what? Everything in that web, your food is eating food, fool.
It's not vegan.
Yeah, there ain't vegan compost. That's a real thing. You messing with me?
No, I'm not kidding. I'm serious.
Vegan compost.
Yes.
Put me in the same room with these people. Put me in the same room, and I'm going to wrap them all in the head with a tack hammer. Okay, I'm joking, but not really. Anyway, it's that time of year, y'all, where you can be putting in all this stuff. I want to talk everything in permaculture really has an overlay with preparedness no matter what. But it is that time. If you can find it, oh, shoot, I can't believe I forgot to say this. I was at the Tractor Supply on the south side of town, and they had some, what to the untrained eye is going to look like a bunch of dead trees. Look, you can walk in there right now. They got trees in certain places, grocery stores around here. Try some of the garden centers out there. They're not moving anything this time of year. Nobody's moving anything. You can go in there, probably get it for a song and dance. I'll bet you any amount, because I've done it before. You can go to Tractor Supply, Walmart. Believe it, there's a lot of good Walmart trees growing out there. I wouldn't even care these days. But you can get a lot of stuff on the discount rack just by going in there and hitting up some local places. Because I did see some at the Tractor Supply on the south side of Asheville, and there was quite a bit of them. Nobody was buying them. I went back. I had to get a specialty item that Michelle needed and nobody else had. And so I had to go all the way out there yesterday, I think it was. And if I ain't mistaken, them trees were still sitting there. Now, I'm not going to get them because I don't need them. Not right now. We got other things going on, but this is the time to put them in. Blueberries, all these things, y'all. I mean, try to think about all these woody species you can be putting in right now, getting those cuttings, propagating your own. None of this stuff is really all that difficult. We're not fusing DNA here, y'all. But just think about it. Instead of waiting until the spring, get the benefit of putting all that stuff in right now and have the blessings of it with far less care, a way higher likelihood of it surviving, because a lot of us have busy lives. Let's say you work a lot. Do you really have time to come water like you should throughout the summer? Put it in now, and then you're going to put in a seriously hefty mulch ring like we showed you, and put down a lot of cardboard, and you'd be shocked at how well your success rate is. If you just put in, even in very marginal, Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but even in some of the worst soils out there where people would have probably not even tried to plant trees there, we've had enormous success just by virtue of the mulch ring that we put on it. I mean, there was a place in Texas, we had a peach tree. It was like this thing came from the promised land. It was that doggone big how quick it grew. And we had a mulch ring probably 3 feet tall all the way around this thing. And the diameter of it probably was 5 feet. Very little care, needed nothing. And all it got was a mulch ring. And then the microbial life did all the exchange. And it was to the point where that soil down there was just absolutely perfect. And the animals do it all for you. So you give yourself a tactical advantage by planting in the fall, even into the winter, because obviously we're in the winter right now.
Right.
Even I wasn't able to plant in the fall. I mean, weather's weird, y'all.
Yeah, and somebody left a comment that their trees are starting to come out of dormancy because it's so warm.
Yeah, that's why I had half of mine. That was honestly why I had half of mine to wait to do anything until mid-January, because they're playing so many games with the weather right now. And if you think they don't, just Google Operation Popeye. You'll know what I'm talking about. And that's back in the Vietnam era. They're playing games. They're doing things. Is the sun doing stuff? Possibly. All I know is I see streaks in the sky, and then next thing I know, we got some wacky weather. Nobody predicted any of it, and here we go all over again. So, all right, so that's going to conclude it with that part of the topic. We're going to go into the main Q&A. Now, Chef Snow is also going to take something of a sabbatical, I guess. You know, look, I dig it. Everybody's going to be doing their thing on the holidays, and, you got to have some time. You got to have some downtime. We always talk about that. All right, before we get into the Q&A, want to remind you of that TexasBoys.com. It was a joy to have them on the other day. They got that food forest in a box. So if you're wondering where you need to go get some trees or anything you could propagate, well, guess what? TexasBoys.com got it. You get 5% off of the website if you put in promo code PERMA. They're friends of mine, and they are really, really awesome guys. Those boys over there are fantastic, wicked smart. And it was a joy to be able to spend time with them at the Mountain Festival not long ago. So I look forward to hanging out with them not before too long. But yeah, with that said, Michelle, what do we got?
So what resources would you recommend to learn more about old-time uses for comfrey? And somebody answered the question. There's 2 books that have been written by Nancy Shirley. So if you do a search for her name, you should be able, I believe she only sells them on her website. So you should be able to buy them off of her website. And a little warning, they're written differently than any other books out there, but they contain a ton of information.
We got one from Jay. It says, Merry Christmas, Billy and the family. Wanted to thank you all for the great videos and the great information you put out there. I've always had farming skills, but learned that from Granddaddy. Anyway, he's giving us well wishes for 2024. Thanks and Merry Christmas. Well, Happy Christmas and Merry New Year to you and everybody else out there, Jay. Thank you so much for the kind words and the well wishes. And folks, look, I know it's not the thing. Talking about a lot of this stuff is not what a lot of people want to hear, but you need to. I would rather do 100% nothing but talking about permaculture. Those days are gone. And we're going to talk about some of the other things that need to be spoken about, whether it's what we talked about with Nathan Reynolds or whether it's what we're talking about right now, where there is something of an overlay with permaculture, but also think about it. Remember, when you put in your trees, let me kind of back up here. When you put in your trees, remember, just like you don't have just a thumb, you got 4 fingers along with it. Well, that's the way you ought to look at your forest, your food forest, or your orchard, is that nothing grows in isolation in nature. If you doubt me, go out and walk in a healthy forest. Look around. What do you see? You see 7 layers of a forest. Overstory, understory, shrub. You get it. All the way down to the roots. Maybe even 8 when you consider the mycelial layer. I would probably argue that there is an 8. Maybe even more. But that's what we want to try to replicate. So when you put in a tree, make sure you put in all the supporting things that it needs around it. We've done tons and tons of videos on it. One of the things you do need is comfrey, and we sell that at the website. If you can work the soil, you can still plant it. It'll come around in the spring. So what else you got there, honey? Okay,
Fed Up has a question. I bought fruit trees and shrubs in spring and planted them in my 50-gallon nursery pots. I'm starting my food forest at the moment. Should I plant them in spring after a year in the big pot?
I don't understand that question again. I kind of missed part of it.
He bought fruit trees and shrubs in the spring and planted them in 50-gallon nursery pots. And he's starting his food forest at the moment. Should he plant them in spring?
It depends on what those are. I mean, by and large, I plant them right now, or when the leaves come off in your area. That's going to be, look, for me, I'm always going to put something in the fall. It's night and day different. Give you a prime example. Pastor Lon, saw a video of his a while back, and they got some trees on the discount rack. And I was like, doggone it, I come across some myself, but it was in the dead of summer. And I put them in. They're alive, but man, I had to baby them suckers all the way through the summer just to get them through. And I even staked them. Now that's a big time no-no on this farm. I staked them because I knew that in the high winds that we sometimes get up in these mountains, I was like, as big as those trees were, there ain't no way on earth they're going to make it through without getting knocked over. So I staked them through that first season just to get them in the fall. And now I'm like, okay, now it's on you now, Jack. I'm taking all the tethers off. And so far, so good. But in your case, I'm always going to elect to do these things if I possibly can in the fall and in the early winter, if possible. So it's still early winter. I'd put them in. What you got there?
Does anyone have any tips for growing potatoes in an instant garden?
We've done it before. Same sort of thing. In an instant garden is basically going to sheet mulch.
Right. And I would add probably quite a bit more soil if you're doing it in an instant garden, significantly more soil.
Where, let's say when your instant garden is all said and done, and let's say it looks like it's a foot, it ain't. The second you get some rain on it and weather a little bit, it's going to tamp down. Let's say if it was a foot when you left it, it's going to be about 6 inches after the first heavy rain. And
you might even have to go back and add more soil, like hill up potatoes, as if you would normally, just to make sure they stay covered so they can grow.
Yeah, so you're going to need I'm right there with her. I'm going twice as much in an instant garden. So yeah, you can absolutely do it. We've done it, and it works. Even did it with sweet potatoes a time or two as well in the instant garden. So it does work. Anybody that doesn't know, tell them what an instant garden is, Michelle.
So an instant garden is just you take, what do you put down first? Is it well, it depends on,
you could put down manure first or cardboard, wet cardboard. Okay. It doesn't really matter.
And then your carbon source on top of that. So it's like, it's also called lasagna gardening, where it's just, you're building your soil is the purpose of it.
And nothing builds it faster than sheet mulching, or as Jeff Lawton calls it, the instant garden, which is basically sheet mulching. We've actually seen it down there where we've taken soil. Well, it was dirt. Let's be honest. It was dirt. And in one season probably produced I know people might think we're crazy, but it produced at least a half inch of soil.
Yeah, it's the best. Even now, the area that we did that, it's the best soil that we have on that side of the driveway.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really not that difficult. So folks, in a nutshell, look at the instant garden. There's Chef Snow sent me a video of a guy, he's going out planting trees, right? He goes out there. I had to kind of zoom through it a little bit. The guy goes out there and scrapes off all the topsoil and then puts in a bunch of compost, near as I can tell, and then plants down into it. And I'm like, good night, dude. You just made life 10 times harder for yourself, man. And, I'm like, no, that's not the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to take whatever's there, sheet mulch around it, put a ton. And this is another awesome reason, is even if you have lousy soil and it ain't the best in the world, you put in a heavy mulch ring around there, you will be shocked at how much life comes in there if you just don't keep playing with it. You could even put some raw manure down. You could do a bunch of other things, but that would help actually feed the worms. You can put down some raw manure, wet cardboard, put your mulch on top, and you will be shocked in a season. If you doubt me, go take a stack of cardboard, go throw it in the yard, and just leave it there. Get it all wet, and then just walk away. Come back 2 months later and see what happens. Lift up that cardboard and look at how much life is under there. We've all done it. We've all seen it as kids. You pick up an old carpet that was at a junkyard you were messing around in. What do you see? It teeming with every activity imaginable. It's exactly the same concept. And we can use it in our favor. And it's 10 times less work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why this guy went out there, scraped up all of his topsoil just to turn back around and put down compost. You would be better off and easier served to just do it where it applies and just build up your soil around it. So, there's so many different ways to go about this. Hey, I wanted to give another shout out. Last week we played music from Lavi Frost. I went and bought I mean, man, it's in those healing frequencies, y'all. I feel it. I really do. In fact, one of these days, I'm going to have to show y'all this mixtape I made of, the Bible, the audio Bible overlaid with some of that music. There is nothing more soothing to me. Deep breathing, can't touch it. None of it does. I'm taking, basically, I love listening to the Psalms. I could probably do a whole podcast as to the reasons why. And when it's overlaid with that music, it just chills me out like nothing I've ever tried before. Well, that's the beauty about Lavi Frost's music, is that it's done in these healing frequencies. And I can honestly feel the difference. It was funny because when I was reading his email where he was saying, hey, I wanted to thank you for the shout out of our music. No, the pleasure is really all mine. It really is. And he says, by the way, his name is Mattis. Man, I probably messed it up again. He even wrote it down. He says, yeah, he gave me a pronunciation.
He tried to help you and you still messed it up.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Matthijs. Anyway, my man's over in the Netherlands. He and his wife, man, they make fantastic music. It's Lavi Frost. There's a really beautiful song where I guess she's pregnant with her baby and they do something of a duet. He's on the guitar. It's fantastic music. When I read his email, at the very same time, I was listening to the music when I opened it up.
Huh.
Yeah. So, no, man, maybe you can give me I'd love to be able to use your music in one of these videos. Yeah. Soothe the Savage Beast, man, for real. It's some really cool music. She has a beautiful voice and beautiful music. I love it all the way around. So go check them out, y'all. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel. Better still do what I did. Go buy the music. And I got it on iTunes. That's probably not the best way to do it, but I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world, but I love their music and I'm going to keep listening to it and possibly even ordering some of it, using some of it if they'll let me. You got anything else out there?
No more questions.
Oh, who got removed from the chat? Somebody said removed from the chat. I don't know what happened, y'all. So, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks, everybody. I know there's so many other things you could be doing with your night, and we thank you for tuning in with us. Until next time, stay alert.
Stay alive.
They don't want an individual, just a carbon copy. You spitting that manicotti, yeah, I'm talking saucy. All they want to build is a prison world full of pet Tamagotchis. Like a kamikaze, got me out of body like I'm Goku SS3. They want to push me to the center like a cell. They want to spin up at the center of the nexus, me. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I will never bow down, 'cause I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. They want me to bow down, but I'm a warrior.